So today we're going to be talking about the 4 tips to win in Q4 2025. We are right here I say Q4 2025 is 4 months long, but even though it's really 3 months long, but June, July, August, and September, that's the end of the fiscal year 2025. And those of us who've been in government contracting long enough have heard that there's end of the year spending. That end of the year spending is a reality. The government has money that they're not spending, and it gets closer to the end of the year and they really try to spend it so they can get it the next time, basically. And so it is a reality that the spending is going to happen, and it's totally okay to have high hopes for, hey, I can win this contract or that contract, right? You can have high expectations about maybe finding that gem. Yes, it's totally okay to have the high hopes, but remember that there's rules to winning end of the year spending, right? There's rules to winning. One example of a rule is don't wait till September, start earlier, right? The people who are really good at this, the companies that are really good at this, started last year, for example, and they're like, hey, here's our plan for next year's end of the year spending. Maybe we're not there. That's totally okay. But understand that there's some guidelines or rules, or what I say, better yet, there's skills for success at the end of the year spending. And if we learn about these skills, we gain the knowledge around those skills and then develop those skills into habits even, but we develop those skills within our company, then we're going to have the success at the end of the year as we go forward. That's a pretty much truism in life. If we learn the skill necessary to have the success, and then we practice that skill over and over again, we're going to have the success that we want. That's totally a realistic expectation. And this is what I want for you to be able to have, is success in fiscal year, end of the year spending for 2025. So in today's training, as I drive forward trying to give you 4 tips, those 4 tips are going to be basically these, right? I want you to niche down to be known for one thing, and I'm going to talk to you about how to do that, why, et cetera. Then I want you to understand you need to team up for more contracts, more opportunities that you can pursue, and for larger opportunities that you can pursue. You want to shift left is my third tip that I'm going to be talking about. Shift left not only gets you in there to maybe be able to hear about the opportunities, et cetera, but to beat out your competition. A lot of your competition is going to be busy, distracted, et cetera. And so if you can shift left, and that means going earlier in the sales cycle or the acquisition cycle, then you're going to be able to beat out your competitors by influencing the customer. We'll talk about that. And then my 4th tip is going to be follow the money. When you follow the money, you're going to find the opportunities. And so I'll give you a couple of tips on how, why, et cetera. But these 4 tips are what I'm going to cover down on today in the next 26 minutes. And I tend to move at a fire hose pace. Hey, let me give you a quick tip before I tell you who I am, in case you don't know. I just saw David Waltz in here again. This guy comes in from the Navy day after day to these trainings. I feel like, David, it's been a couple of years you've been coming to the trainings, and he comes in, he makes himself available as a small business professional within the Navy, makes himself available to us. He's in here looking to see if there's people who say, I sell this. And he goes, oh, hey, my customers internally need that, right? And he builds relationships. But he also talks about, he's got, I don't know if he said it here in the comment, but he talks about what he buys. He tries to let us know about opportunities. Every Wednesday, he does his own industry briefing type thing. Connect with David Waltz if what you see there fits in, or just feel free to ask him questions to see if it's a right fit in there. So David, I appreciate you being in here. For everybody else, if you don't know who I am, my name is McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I'm co-founder of GovCon in a Box, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. After I got out of the Army, I spent 20 years as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you. This is why I come back day after day to do the training. I have training tomorrow. Last day of the week is Friday the 13th, which is like a super lucky day because you get a lot more training from me. Tomorrow's training is going to be about process, right? I have taken the what might have been considered the complex process of government contracting, boiled it down into a 7-step process for success in the federal market. So come join me in that training tomorrow. If you haven't connected with me or following me on LinkedIn, make sure you do. I try to put out a lot of good content. For example, this morning, I just put out a 86-page slide deck coming from the Marine Corps, speaking of the Navy, right? Coming from the Marine Corps, the Marine Corps Systems Command and Installation and Logistics Command those two commands, the contracting shops came through, and there's like 50 plus major contracting points of contact. There's 25 large opportunities that many are set aside for small business. And so when I say large, it's like well past 5-10 million or something, but they're still small business contracts. So take a look at that. But when you're connecting with me on LinkedIn, or you're hitting my bell notification, if you don't know this, if you go to my profile, hit the bell and make sure you hit it again and say, see all posts that I do, because if I do 1% that is not directly related to what you do, I'd be surprised. And then last thing is, make sure you subscribe to the Government Contracting Success newsletter. It is where I put out content that I think is most valuable to helping you succeed as a government contractor. Okay, let's dive into tip 1. So tip 1 is niche down to be known for one thing. I used to use this term pigeonhole, right? I don't want to be pigeonholed. Or in the acting community, it was like, I don't want to be typecast as, let's say Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, if maybe we all know him, a really famous actor. Did he want to be typecast as this action hero? Well, he definitely wanted that so he'd get more of the gigs, but he also wanted to be able to expand out. But inside of his career, because he was an action hero, he got a lot of really good movies and was really able to control his career. And for us, that's how I want you to think of your company, is get your company to be typecast or pigeonholed or known for one thing. Just because you're known for one thing doesn't mean you can't sell other things. An example is my last company. I did Microsoft SharePoint. They would literally call us the SharePoint guys. Oh, have you talked to them? They're the SharePoint guys. They're best at it. And somebody might sit there and say, well, we sell all these other things like network engineering and project management. It doesn't matter. We were known. We would get $5 million contracts because we were known. Like, people would invite us into it. But we also were able to pursue much larger contracts once we were in the agency and they saw us as a good vendor. They saw us beyond just the SharePoint guys. But if you're seen as everything, it's hard for anybody to go to even remember you, right? And so try to be known for one thing. It's funny. I'm just going to say this again because it sits on my mind. Chris Moffitt has drove into my brain. She's in our community in the chat there, right? And she has driven into my brain that her company does all things training. That's how easy you want it to be for somebody like me or David Waltz or your teammate partners out there to remember you. So what is your company best at? Put that into the chat. We're best at this. And try to keep it a few words, just a very few, right? I see Emily's got full life cycle staffing solutions as an example, right? Put in there, what are you best at? But when you're trying to niche down to be known for one thing, you begin with defining, what are we best at? If you're a new company, what am I best at? What can I do? Figure that out, and now you've got your starter niche. The second thing that is kind of aligns with what are we best at is, what has somebody paid us for? I have a customer who does acquisition support services. And when I first started talking to him, he said, well, we're also going after these IT contracts and some of these other things because we got some, friends, teammates, whatever, that are out there that we go into them. I'm like, whoa, you got to stop that. You're an expert at acquisition support. First off, that's where the entire federal government is going in this transition in 2025. But the second thing is, you're not an IT company. You're not a software development company. I was, right? But you're not. And so you're getting pulled away from your niche, what you're really good at and what you've been paid for. It doesn't mean you can't work with those people, those teaming partners that are IT, et cetera. Just bring them in and say, we're an acquisition support company that has IT enablers. Like, we use IT to improve the acquisition process, not we're an IT company, right? And so it's really important for you to kind of think about those two things. What are we best at? What have we been paid for? And the bigger your company is, 5-10 million, you should be able to look at 60% of your work and go, wow, that's what we're really good at getting paid for. I would recommend you push off the 40% and double down on the 60%. And when I mean push off, I don't mean don't take the money. Definitely do that. But don't take any more of those contracts, or don't let yourself get sliding that way saying, well, we have 3 or 4 core competencies. You don't. You want to be known for one thing. All right. The third main bullet that I have here is, as an example of how you can niche down, is thinking about how you can do it. I just want to give you an example. I gave you one with the acquisition support company, but I'll give you another really good example. I was working with a company who's doing construction. And for them, she was doing a lot of different construction. We were kind of confused when we were working with her. And but she was talking about painting and flooring and elevator services, some of these others. And as we started talking to her, it came clear two things. The work she liked to do, which is kind of aligned with what are we best at, the work she really liked to do was elevator support services and maintenance and installation or whatever. She liked that. And when she was starting to have that thinking, she's like, you know what, that's also our highest profit margin. That's where we make our most money. And so what we encourage her to do is don't be construction, come all the way down to elevator support services. And that's scary because she was communicating. She did flooring and walling and whatever, right? But now she's doing one thing. As soon as she did that, she started seeing more opportunities. In fact, I haven't worked with her in years, and I still see elevator contracts constantly. They come to my mind and I think of her, right? Kind of thing. That's what a niche can do for you is not just get you known, but also make it easier to actually find those opportunities you can win. Okay, the second tip for how you can have success in the fourth quarter of 2025 is to team up. Team up for bigger contracts and for more contracts that you can go after. There's three ways to make money in the federal market. You can subcontract under a small business, you can prime contract directly with a federal agency, or you can subcontract under a large business. I describe the subbing under a small and large separately because they are two different revenue streams. The largest have a whole different set of criteria than a $10 million business owner who goes, oh no, come on in. I remember what it was like to be small. I'll be happy to work with you. You're good at this. We could use that right here, right? And so there's three ways to make money. You need to understand that because if you're going after prime contracts, the best you can do, and this is really being generous, the best you can do is have access to 30% of the possible revenue that you could go after. You're leaving behind the money you could make by subcontracting under a small business who has their own pipeline, going after their own opportunities, and you're getting a percentage of that work, and they're doing most of the work to win the contract. You're coming in and you'll help them as needed, but you're coming in and you'll be on that contract. They've got the administrative stuff. And the same thing with a large. If you're at the stage where a large would value you, then that's a huge portion. I use this example a lot where one of my customers won a $65 to $70 million contract, subcontract with large. That was after they had worked with smalls and then worked with the larges incrementally, right? It didn't happen right away. They were in like their 10th year of business. But that's a huge win for them, right? It's a huge win for any of us. And that's what comes from teaming is you have access to all three revenue streams. The third bullet here is I suggested having 10 teaming partners. Here's what you could do right now, or you could have your company do, the people in your company, is go identify 10 companies that are winning in the agency that you want to go sell to and team up with them. And you might have to knock on 100 doors to find these 10 who will work with you. But when you work with these companies who are willing to be the prime and you'll sub for 10 or 20%, imagine what it will do for your company and for your pipeline and for your revenue. If you add 10 business developers right now, you have no additional cost of that, but it's basically adding $1 million in value to your company. Let's say $100,000 per employee. So $100,000 per business developer. But if you've got a business developer over here at another company and they're pushing forward and bringing you along as a sub, that's your business developer, right? I mean, you want to have a good relationship, but you definitely can look at them as a business developer for your company. That means if you have 10, you're adding 10 times the opportunities to your pipeline. You're basically adding $1 million to your company by the activity that they do. So this is a huge thing. Team up to go after bigger contracts and more contracts. Hey, before I move forward, I just want to thank our sponsors for these lives. I do these lives, and these sponsors have been supporting me, and I really appreciate it. Beginning with the long-term sponsor of ours, Graham, who does staffing and American Sign Language services. If you know companies that are looking for, or federal agencies that are looking for American Sign Language services, there's no better company to go to than these guys. Talk with KZO, Kate from KZO. She might even be here today in here. Graham, I know, is in here today. She does fractional finance and contract support. And a quick example, though, I had somebody reach out to me this morning who they're doing really well, and they have this convoluted pricing type thing. I was like, I'm not the expert. I'm a GovCon expert, but in my category, not every category. And so I was able to refer them to Kate, and they were a spot-on referral because that's her world, helping with pricing before and after the contract. CMMC is a reality if you're in the DoD. You need to get CMMC certified. And Steel-toed here can help you. They're a cybersecurity company out there. They've been with us a long time as well, and we appreciate their support. And then GovCon in a box. Go check out this is our product, our SaaS product out there, and we're helping you find and win opportunities. I'm really liking the fact that you're putting out. I talked about requirement gap analysis this year, and this week, and I just released another feature out there. The other good thing about this, if you become a member, is that we have weekly office hours, so you don't have to go it alone. We're right there with you. All right, that's a little longer than I usually do, but thanks to our sponsors. The third tip for you, and let me minimize me and maximize this roadmap here that I built. I built this a long time ago, and one of the things I teach people all the time is I don't teach a single hack, secret, or whatever. I teach the process. Fundamentally, the process I teach is what all of us would be teaching you. I teach it a different way. I try to make it clear in the way that I see it, but this is still fundamentally the process. And really, when you think about shifting left, the idea of shifting left is you increase your ability to influence the buyer, the federal buyer, in the acquisition approach they take, which contract vehicle use, which NAICS they use, which set-asides. That's the acquisition approach type influence. And then you can influence their requirements, the technical scope of the work by having conversations with them. You can go watch training I just did. I don't know if I did it yesterday, a couple of days ago, and I did it live. I just am so busy, I forget what I've done. But you can go in there and I talk about how to influence the buyer. And I've done at least 100 on this. But the thing I wanted to point out today is if you want to sit there and win more contracts and have more success in Q4 2025, then right here is where you see the RFP and the award. That's okay. If something comes out in SAM, something comes out in Seaport Next Gen or 𝗟𝗶H, that's totally cool if it comes out in an RFP or an RFQ and you see it and you like it and you want to go after it. Totally do that. If it's a slam dunk opportunity for you, if it absolutely is your core competency, do that. What I'm saying is you also want to try to push forward, right? And so you want to be identifying market research, this phase here, where the government is putting out sources sought and RFIs. They're looking for industry to respond. This is my favorite time to go for the win. I go for the win every single time I respond to a sources sought or market or an RFI, because most of my competitors will not. And I will take the quality of an RFP proposal and I put that into the RFI response, because I'm giving the government a reason to go, hey, let's just choose these guys. At the very least, I'm giving them a reason to sit there and say, you know what, this company's got a really good response. They got good engagement. Let's bring them in, right? Let's have a conversation. And that's how you start beating your competitors. You're getting in earlier and you're able to have discussions. Sometimes you'll be able to get in the door. Sometimes you won't. That's a truism. But when you get in the door, you're giving yourself an advantage over your competitors. And backing it up even further, one other tip on shifting left is I was talking with another customer yesterday. Stop being an expert and keeping it to yourself. It is your job to toot your own horn, to brag, not in any kind of bad way, but it's your job to let everybody know, look what I have done. And I want you to take a page out of my book a little bit, right? You don't have to be as crazy as me. But one of the ways I try to communicate and reach small businesses in the government contracting space is these trainings. I put out a training and I teach you, hey, here's how you can go after Q4, right? That might begin to reinforce to you that I know what I'm talking about. And if you watch 7, 10, or 100 of my videos, pretty soon you're like, you know what? I want to talk to this company. I want to talk to this guy. And you can do something similar for whatever you sell. I used, let me look at Art Brown Enterprise. I'm looking for everybody. Well, okay, let's make it a little harder. Here's Elizabeth Water, right? She sells fasteners, which is fascinating. See what I did there? She sells fasteners, right? And what I would encourage her to do is to write a single page thing about fasteners. What are the top 10 risks of buying the wrong fastener or whatever, right? Who manufactures the best fasteners? Where has 3D technology taken fastener purchases for the government? Whatever, right? Her company are experts there. And so what I would recommend, she do something like that and then get it into the agency she wants to reach. She might send it to Dave Waltz and say, Dave, here's a one-page thing about fasteners that I thought might help these customers inside of your warfare center. Would you mind forwarding it to them? If Dave looks at it and sees that it's valuable information that the internal customer might value, then he's sending it off. If she knows already who the internal customer is, she can send it directly. My point is, send stuff in that while the government is thinking about all these things they're buying, shifting left means get in there and influence their thinking. Elizabeth, not the Navy, is the expert at fasteners. The Navy is the expert at warfare on sea or something, right? And so getting in there with whatever you sell is shifting left to beat the competitors. The sources sought, the RFIs, and then just in there with YouTube videos, white papers, whatever. And by the way, don't make them overly complicated. Go to ChatGPT, ask it to help you. Make sure you're the expert, not ChatGPT, but ChatGPT can help you like quickly build a white paper if that's not your expertise. All right, so the last tip I have for you on how to have success in Q4 2025 and really any year is follow the money, right? This is really important, to follow the money to the opportunities. There's a couple of ways I'm going to talk about following the money. First thing is the reason you're doing this and what you're doing is you're trying to find out who is buying what I'm selling. If we just stick with Elizabeth for a second and everybody say, hey, Elizabeth, if we stick with Elizabeth for a second and she's trying to sell fasteners and other parts that go with fasteners, and I don't know that business. If she's selling that, then she wants to find out who's buying that. You know who's not buying it? Probably HHS, probably DHS, maybe the Coast Guard within DHS, right? So she needs to follow the money and go, who's buying this? Is it only DLA, blah, blah, blah. When she finds that, she starts narrowing her market from the entire federal government she's trying to target down to the agencies that are buying it. And even those, my recommendation is like select one, maybe two or something, right? The second thing is find out, and this goes to the selection process, find out who's spending the most on what you sell. So the first thing I want to know is who's buying fasteners out there. The second thing I want to do is to find out who's spending the most on what you sell, right? If I'm looking at the Navy and they buy 60% of fasteners, and I look over somewhere else and they buy 5% of the fasteners, well, not only is the Navy spending more, but they're probably doing more transactions, which means I have a shot at more opportunities to go after things. And if I can only choose one agency or another, I'm going into the Navy. And what I want to do is stay in the Navy over and over and over again so that I start getting known. Oh, Elizabeth, she sent a response last week and yesterday and the day before, right? Whatever it is, they'll start seeing it. Just because maybe she wins some days and doesn't another day, she is building a reputation for a company that sells fasteners. The last thing is on the top there is find out who's winning in your space. And so if she's selling fasteners, I would want to find out first off who else is winning fasteners, because I can follow their wins to find out who's buying that maybe I didn't find in the first two bullets, right? So I chase my competitors' wins to find their customers, and now I know whose door to knock on. The other thing going with who's winning in my space is maybe Elizabeth is selling nuts, but not the bolts, and so she can find a company who's selling bolts. I know that's a silly example, right? But what's the related type product or sale that relates to Elizabeth's fasteners or nuts or bolts or something? Could it go up further? Is it somebody selling, bigger parts or machinery or something, and she can come in selling the replacement parts? So find out who's winning in your space, because that will help you understand where to direct your energy. The way you can find out who's winning in your space, who's spending the most, who's even buying what you sell, you can do that with FPDS and USA Spending. USA Spending, if you don't know this, is just pulling its data from FPDS and some other databases, but FPDS, right? It's pulling that data in and it's giving it a friendly interface. The flaw with USA Spending is when you do a keyword search on fastener, for example, USA Spending will search for that word in every single field. In FPDS, you can say, only show me the description of the requirement field and show me fasteners. And it's a lot more relevant, but it's raw data. So it takes time for you to develop that skill. I would recommend you develop it. But don't overthink this, right? Just go in there and you're trying to find out who's buying it. Chase that money down. Don't spend more than a day, right? You can develop this skill and you can keep coming back over and over doing it. But don't act like you're all of a sudden going to become a data analytic person. You want to find who's spending the money, and then you want to knock on David Waltz's door, right? Kind of thing, right? You want to move that fast because it's the end of the year. You want to know those people here in June. And the last thing is Well, I already did acquisition support, so I'm going to end with that. I'm just watching my time. Here are the 3 things that I want you to remember from the 4 tips, right? Niche down, team up, and follow the money. When you do these 3 things, you will increase your chances for success in Q4 on the end of the year spending for 2025. I know that you can do that. It just takes a little bit of discipline around these skill sets, and you'll be able to have much more success than maybe you had without that. Don't forget about tomorrow's training. I'm going to talk about the 7-step process for federal revenue success. It just goes into everything we're doing through the end of the year anyways. And then if you're interested in our GovCon Chamber Summer Summit, this is going to be a huge summit for me. This is my first. I do all sorts of free stuff constantly for 8 years. I've been doing it, 1,000 videos. This is going to be our first paid government summit, GovCon Summit, and we're bringing in program office level speakers and contracting office level speakers. And so that's a differentiator for us. If you're interested in joining the wait list, I think you can see the link right there, govconchamber.com/GovConRocks. By the way, if you found the training helpful, put GovCon Rocks in the chat as I end with government contracting. It's not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.